Ocean Story is with you, and I have new stories that touch me. I'm 52 years old, living with my wife, who is 2 years younger. We also have 4 children together. The oldest girl is 23, and her sister is 20. My 2 boys are still practically teenagers. One is 18, and the younger is 15. My wife and I pay the mortgage, pay the bills, and buy groceries for the house. My wife still works, and her money goes to our vacation and pension. My wife and I are happy with this distribution. She earns about $90,000 a year. I earn much more than she does. My eldest daughter has a job she got after graduation. My second eldest daughter works part-time, while she is at university to pay for extra classes before exams. Eventually, all 4 of my children will graduate without debt. I have to work day and night shifts. I am currently writing this story when it is 4 o'clock in the morning. I just got home from my shift. There was a note waiting for me on my desk. It scolded me for eating a box of varietal clams, a box that I found in the freezer and cooked for breakfast yesterday. Obviously, it was food that my daughter had bought for herself, but there was no note in the freezer saying that it should not be touched. Unfortunately, this is not the first time this has happened between us, but I think it was the last time. I'm thinking of talking to my wife and asking her to tell my daughter that everything that is in the freezer or refrigerator without signatures of ownership can be considered common, or that my daughter should start paying for all my products that she is consumed with my salary during this time, because she doesn't buy the most necessary things, and her contribution is not great. My daughter eats all the food that my wife buys for us. I have no problem with my daughter living here without rent and eating my food as long as she has to save money. I understand it. I have a problem with the following: that my daughter calls me a jerk for eating my food. What I found in my freezer in my own house the other day, I should probably say that I've found out many times in the past. The food she took, in fact, it meant that my daughter added to the list of foods I paid for out of my wallet, and her mom bought what she wanted. Sebastian, if you think about it, your wife does at least some of the shopping. So how do you know the shrimp were your daughter's? Of course, you have every right to eat food from your own kitchen. You just need to talk to your daughter about putting her name on what is hers, especially if she bought it specifically for herself and had no intention of sharing it with anyone. Camila, in general, why can't you talk to your adult daughter about this yourself? The fact that you are asking your wife to talk to your daughter is just ridiculous and very strange. You personally claim that you are satisfied with everything, but your words say otherwise. In my fridge, in my house, and your clarification that it is you who pays the bills, not your wife. You know, it sounds like you're confident that you have the right to say that because you are the breadwinner for them all at home. Aiden, one important fact: your children are not paying for their own education. This may mean for you to be able to give another reason why your money is so important. If you, as a man, are not satisfied with your eldest daughter living in a rent-free apartment, she doesn't even pay for groceries, that's probably okay. She's not a little girl anymore. Then you shouldn't be told that you are the main problem. Area, you say, I pay for everything when my wife only pays for her pension and vacation. Sounds like nonsense to me, and I can't understand you. Just sit down and talk to your daughter and eat the unmarked food from your fridge with peace of mind. I think you should use your words and tell your eldest that you want her to leave. You have to realize that financing your pension is a lot of money. I hope your wife will remind you of that when you try to buy clams after you retire. A story that really surprised me. When it all happened, my younger brother and I were less than 6 years old. It was the moment our parents got divorced. 3 years later, our mother had a terrible accident on her motorcycle. This accident changed our lives forever. My father was already married to another girl at the time. He and his wife decided that she would take responsibility, but she and my father would raise us together as their own beloved children. Although my mom hasn't done anything wrong to anyone, she didn't die, she just had a bad physical condition. My mom remained permanently disabled because of the injuries she received in that terrible accident. My mom was in the hospital for almost a year and a half. She spent another 4 years in rehabilitation courses to learn how to move normally again. During all this time, the doctors did not allow my brother and me to see or talk to my mother. During this time, my brother decided that my father's wife had become his real mother and that our biological mother was just my father's ex-wife. My dad and stepmother were happy about that. After some time, my real mom was able to get to a place where she could ask the court for time with her own children. At first, this process took place under supervision because she was still physically challenged. My mother wanted to catch up with the time that her disability had taken away. She wanted to be with us because it had been a long time since we'd seen her. But the biggest damage was done to my brother and mom. My brother did not want to spend time with my mom. My brother didn't even want to call her mom or for her to say that he was her son. He was angry with me for hugging my mom and for calling her mom. My brother said that by doing so, I was displeasing our meta, meaning my stepmother. The custody situation caused difficulties between my father and his new wife, who said that mom's place in our life is with my brother, disrupts our good atmosphere and family dynamics. So my dad and stepmother came to an agreement that it was in my best interest to see my mom and maintain a relationship with her, but it was in my brother's best interest not to see her, so that everything would return to its place. Where my brother had no contact with my mother, my mom was heartbroken and my father was furious that my mother would have access to me and we would spend time together, even though we didn't have my brother. At the time of writing, I am 23 years old. I am in my last year at university. I now live with my mother and have divorced my father and his wife. I still talk to my brother, but our relationship is very strained. We don't feel like family anymore. We feel like we're just acquaintances. We almost feel like half-siblings, probably because we no longer claim the same parents. My brother was talking about graduation and how he wants to be there, but he doesn't want to go with our common mom. She wants her parents to be there, but I don't want them to be there. I don't want them in my life at all. Then he said he couldn't come otherwise. I told my brother that I would not invite his parents just to have him there. Then I heard him get hysterical when I said that, and now my brother was angry with me for choosing my mom and not my loving family for some reason. This makes me feel bad and out of place. Despite how confusing things are, I still love my brother, although I'm not sure if we will ever be able to be close again. I don't want to hurt him because I love my brother. Owen, this is such an awkward and bad situation. I understand if your mom left you of her own free will. Then I could understand your brother, but this was an accident. But try to cut your brother some slack and try to keep the relationship alive, because he is not as mature as you are and he can look at things differently and change his mind when he grows up a little more. However, refusing to communicate with your father and his new wife, it's your choice and it's completely justified and logical. If they hadn't tried to pretend that your mom didn't exist, then maybe none of this would have happened and you could have had a full-fledged happy family. I had a thought. I was just wondering, how happy would your father and stepmother have felt if your mom had not recovered? Penelope, your parents are the worst in the world. They deliberately brainwashed their young and impressionable son so that they wouldn't have to deal with his mother's embarrassment. It sounds like your brother is unlikely to come to your graduation, and that's not cool. But I wouldn't give up on your relationship with your brother. Wyatt, this is not your mother's fault. I don't agree that it's not your brother's fault. Your brother knows the truth. He just doesn't care about it. It's not his truth. It's not good for him. I'm asking you not to get upset about it. He knows that you don't communicate with your father and stepmother. He also knows that you live with your birth mother. But it is your brother who is trying to humiliate you because he is trying to set the rules for your graduation and who should be there. There is no need to be upset here. This boy made his choice. Next story. My wife and I have a 6-year-old son. This year, my son wanted to participate in Halloween. So when the time came, my son told me that he had decided what costume he wanted to wear. It was a costume of characters from his favorite cartoon. These are not the kind of costumes that you can easily buy in specialty stores. So I had to work a little harder and make them. In our family, I'm the breadwinner and my wife works a regular job. It's not a problem for my wife to reduce her working hours if she needs to. But my wife has always been very focused her work. She didn't really play the role of a mother to her son. Because of this, my son has never been very attached to his mother. My wife and son spend time together at dinner. My wife has days when she is completely free. But even when my wife is not working, I am always alone. I am always alone with my son. Not that I complain about her actions. I once signed the paper of our marriage, and I enjoy every minute with her. I just want, for the sake of my son, for my wife to take more part in my son's life. About 2 weeks before Halloween, my son asked, "Can my best friend dress up with us?" By the way, he had already assigned a specific character for himself and me. So it was time for sewing. I started working on the costumes, so I decided that it wouldn't be a big deal to add another costume. My son loves his best friend very much. They have such a cool connection with each other. They often go out together. One day I asked my son's friend if he wanted to join us for a trick-or-treating trip on the night of the celebration, and he immediately agreed. That same day, during dinner, I asked my son what character he wanted his mom to be. My son clearly replied that he only wanted to go trick-or-treating with his dad and his best friend. Over the next week, I often raised this question with my son. He kept giving me the same answer. My wife was obviously hurt and felt bad, but she always tried to hide it when we talked. Then came the day of the celebration. I spent several weeks working on these gorgeous costumes for all of us while we were getting ready for the party. At the same time, my wife and I had a big fight because she didn't have a costume. I said that if she wanted me to make a costume for her, she could have asked me to do so, or at least she could buy it herself. My wife said that it was stupid that the three of us make the same style of costumes, and that we don't take my wife into account, and that she wasn't even going to go out with us in the evening. In the end, it was just me and my son, his friend, and my friend who brought his daughter. We went trick-or-treating alone. My wife hasn't spoken to me for a week. She can't believe I went without her, and there I was happily collecting candy while she was suffering. Ella, a good question for me is why you allowed your 6-year-old son to exclude his mother. Did you, as her husband, just accept it? Especially since you say that your wife was clearly hurt by this, and also that you would like her and her son to have a stronger bond. And what kind of a prank is this from your son? I don't want to go trick-or-treating with my mom. You could have talked to him more tactfully, like, "Why? Mom really wants to go with us. I think it will be much more fun and more candy if we all go together." Just like that, you could have said everything. Daniel, you seem like a responsible adult. You should have taken care of inviting your wife. Your whole story reads like a judgmental and whining set of sentences. It's as if you want to prove that you're the better parent. What's the point? If you are unhappy, then go and talk to your wife. Don't use your son to punish her. Do what's best for your wife and son. Avery, this post is steeped in resentment towards his wife. Perhaps only many thought so. I think you are probably happier to exclude your wife and blame the child. Imagine what your wife could have felt at that moment when you even took your friend on a hike with you and she was left at home alone. This is not the act of a good husband. Now I want to tell a different story. I was in a happy marriage until my wife and I got divorced. Her name is Abigail, and she is a wonderful woman. We divorced about 3 years ago, and neither of us has any hard feelings. It was a mutual decision. We have 2 children with her, Alexander and Jacob. I'll be honest and say that I don't like the schedule with my sons at all. It's not a fair 50-50 schedule. I don't like not seeing my wonderful children. I will say something else. Before anyone jumps on me, I realize that this is what I signed up for when I got divorced. But it doesn't make it any easier for me not to see my children. Sometimes it happens that my ex-wife and I allow our children to visit each other. If something happens between me and her, at the moment, I've been dating one girl for 3 months, my wonderful Emily. My girlfriend and I had a date last Sunday. We were supposed to go to a restaurant around 7 in the evening. That day, around 1 in the afternoon, my ex-wife wrote me a message on Instagram that she was going on a date, so she needed me to come and pick up our children. And of course, I was happy about it. I wanted to see my children, so I agreed right away. I just asked her to give me a minute to take care of some personal matters. Later, I called Emily and asked if we could reschedule the meeting, and I will pick her up tomorrow. I explained that I want to see my children. I also know that this doesn't happen often. Abigail always tells me a few days in advance, but this was the last minute. My girlfriend got very angry with me, especially after I said I would take the kids from my ex's house. So my girlfriend said that I was dumping her to find time for my ex. No matter how many times I tried to explain that it was crazy on her part, that I was not going there to have a drink with my ex, but to pick up my sons. But I guess it was the same for her. She started saying that I was being very disrespectful to her, chasing her away to spend time with my ex, that I didn't value our relationship. I told the girl that I don't understand why she thinks that. After all, I am literally going to take my children and nothing more. Our whole conversation turned into a showdown and a fight. The girl said, okay. She refused to answer my calls and messages. I picked up the kids, she still didn't answer. So I stopped trying. A little time passed since I stopped calling and writing. The girl started writing me messages about what a bad guy I was and that she doesn't want to be around me anymore. We're breaking up. Literally, she said, God, you are such an asshole. I told her that everything was fine, and I understood. But was I the problem? Personally, I feel like I'm here, getting my kids. I haven't introduced the kids and the girl yet, because I felt it was too soon. I just understand that it can be disappointing, but I don't feel like it was that bad. I didn't leave her, and I would have picked up the girl the next day. The girl reacted so critically to my words about the children and my ex. Although it should have been taken the way it was said, but that's how she took it. It's not hard for me to understand that I was partly to blame. But to say that we are getting a divorce, it's too much on her part. Henry, so you canceled your date with your girlfriend at the last minute. So your ex can have a date night instead of you and your girlfriend. Maybe for you, you're seeing your kids. To your girlfriend, it looked like you were ditching her at the last minute to support your ex's excellent entertainment planning. Your ex didn't call you to let you know about an emergency at work or she's not feeling well. How many ex-wives do this on purpose? I'm sure, a lot. That's why I personally will never build relationships with those who have children again. Children turn into weapons in the wrong hands to hurt the new partner, and the new partner goes crazy, expecting respect and decency from you. Jackson, I agree with that guy. I fully understand that you wanted to see your sons, but this was your wife's time with the kids, and you had a date with your girlfriend scheduled to give her up so your ex could go on a date. This is a huge territory of feelings where you can stumble. The girl was right to be angry with you, and I would have been too. Maybe someone will want to say that children should come first. Tell that to his ex, who decided to dump the children on her husband at that moment, when it was obviously more convenient for her then for him to reschedule dates. And no, the ex didn't force him to do it. She simply used the fact that the man wants to see his children as often as possible. This desire was used as a lever of influence. Camilla, I disagree almost completely. If an ex says, you have to pick up the kids, otherwise I won't be able to go on a date, this is favorable. You have to pick up the kids, otherwise I won't be able to go on my own date. That's facilitation and manipulation. If you had said no, your ex could have hired a nanny or a friend, and you decided to spend more time with your kids. This means being a real father. The fact that you chose your children over your girlfriend, whom you've only known for a couple of months. It's good that you knew your priorities and that your sons are more important to you. Sebastian, that girl doesn't want a man who is primarily a father and then your personal boyfriend. She sees your children as competition, and the fact that you are forever connected to your ex-wife through your children. This is a huge problem for her. Your ex-girlfriend is jealous of this connection. It's good that she showed her true face so early and went ahead and ended it, because I'm sure she would have been horrible with your children. My next story. My ex-wife and I divorced when my daughter was 4 years old. Later, my ex-wife remarried and moved to another city, which was in another state. I had the right to see my daughter. I tried my best to stay in my daughter's life, but over time, she just didn't want to spend time with me. My daughter was fine with her mother and her new father, her stepfather. I regularly paid alimony and sent gifts on major holidays. I did not spare money for a gift on her birthday. If my daughter needed money for something, I gave it to her without hesitation. Then I met my current wife about 6 years ago. By the way, we were friends for 3 years before she told me about her feelings. We knew each other for so long that our engagement was very short. We were engaged, married, and expecting a daughter in 2 months. Today, my daughter from my first wife is 22 years old. My daughter is engaged to a wonderful guy. Her husband's parents asked me about my plans for the wedding. I couldn't answer anything because I didn't know anything about it. I called my ex to find out what was going on. My ex said that her husband was paying for everything, and he would be the one to walk my daughter down the aisle. I was hurt, as if something stabbed me in the heart. But I realized that my adult daughter had made her choice in life. So I thanked my ex for taking care of everything. That my parents received an invitation to the wedding. And then I went back to my life. I have a newborn baby who needs my fatherly attention. Well, I heard some words from her family about me, but I'm still that jerk who doesn't care that. I wasn't invited to my own daughter's wedding, and in general, it's not really true. I decided not to make a big deal out of it. I don't want to make a drama out of a wedding. That's exactly what jerks and fools do. And everything was already decided. The truth is because of my actions. My ex-mothers-in-law are pissing on me because I didn't come, and they raid their parental moralizing to me for my daughter. This is not the end of bad things. Now my daughter tweets and Instagrams that I have abandoned her, but I don't even try to come to her because I only care about my own family, my backup family. According to her, when I got married, my daughter, her mother and stepfather came to my wedding. When I wrote that I made an effort, I meant that I paid for her laptop so that we could communicate. When she bought herself a new laptop, she hid her name. That's why I couldn't call her to have a video call. My daughter didn't bother to give me her new data. Carter, don't invite someone to your wedding to draw attention to yourself. That's probably the best way to end the relationship completely. However, it sounds like they were already pretty dead for a long time. Your daughter probably wanted you to fight to demand to be invited. She wanted you to scream and cry out to the world. How unfair it is that you were separated from your own daughter. She just doesn't realize that you've been through this before. The first time, you were cut out of her life by her own choice. Instead, you acted like an adult, as you should. You decided to accept your daughter's decision at face value. Your daughter was playing her childhood game with you. An adult who did not spend time with her child, it was not surprising that you did not play the game the way she wanted. Grace, people know, the father. It's interesting because, at first glance, it's not his fault, but it's much more than a wedding invitation. This is your child, after all, and for a long time your daughter felt that you abandoned her. I think she expected you to fight for her love and demand her attention. And it turns out that you have been so indifferent to your relationship. This could have broken her sensitive heart. You should listen to what she has to say. Your daughter, she feels abandoned by her father. You also did not think about the fact that you married a man who is almost the same age as your daughter. And now you are creating a new family for yourself. It's hard for any child to imagine what she thinks of your new wife. She could be her sister, not to mention her stepmother. Owen, I think the point is this, that for a long time you were not close enough to your own daughter to even know that she's getting married right now. And besides, your daughter is stupid for turning a wedding invitation into a test of her father's attention. But she quickly realized that you don't pay any attention to her. Chloe, for some reason, I think there's a lot missing here. I'm leaning towards the fact that this is an operation by your ex. You have a daughter, but you don't consider her a part of your life. You think it's all her own doing. But your daughter was a child. When you divorced your ex-wife, as an adult and a father, you are responsible to her for this.